Hey everybody, welcome to episode of the Ghoulfriend Hour. I'm your host, your ghost host, Morgan Fezza, and today we are here with Pocono Regional Paranormal, and I'm super excited to get to chat with them and get to know a little bit more about them. So welcome in our guests, and I'm going to turn the mic over to you. Introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm John. I'm co-founder of Pocono Regional Paranormal and beautiful Pocono Mountains with my friend Andy. Go ahead, Andy.
How's it going? I'm Andy. Again, John and I co-founded Pocono Regional Paranormal about 5 years ago. Just working as he was actually my boss, and the paranormal came up one night, and it's been a fun 5 years. It's been some very interesting locations.
Oh, I'm excited to
Absolutely.
hear about it. And I love the relationship dynamic there. So that's really cool how you guys met and how you guys decided. Because I feel like sometimes in work world, like I know this even from my own background, sometimes work doesn't always mesh with the paranormal, and it's very rare to meet other paranormal friends at work. So I think that's really cool. How did it come up in conversation?
So
Well,
go ahead, Andy.
no, go ahead.
Okay, we were. It was October 2021, and Andy and we were having a conversation. I was just trying to keep it friendly, and Andy was talking about paranormal. I go, "Oh, you like the paranormal?" And he goes, "Yeah, I like Ghost Hunters. I like Jason Hawes and Grant Wilson." I'm sitting there like, I love those guys. And I said I've always wanted to go on a ghost hunt, and he goes, "We should do it." And um we went to decided to go to Clinton Road in West Milford, New Jersey, and love it, love it. Um, we went, I guess, a week before Halloween, and there was for a first adventure there was nothing, but it was fun. It was fun, and it was a great start to 5 years.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that you bring up Clinton Road because as somebody who grew up in New Jersey, I grew up in Parsippany, and that was like our local, like that was our Friday night after football games. And so me and my other co-host Taylor, also my cousin, she and I started a little segment called Hometown Haunts, where that was our very first like destination. And I just feel like Clinton Road is so much fun. Um, but I never realized like because I guess because we were so into like the lore and constantly, you go with your friends, you load up in the car with like five of you in the car, and then you go perusing down the road, and you're like, you just want to like kind of scare yourself, and it's just like a fun, a fun Friday night activity. We never actually like spent time on the road, and I kind of noticed when me and Taylor went back and we did our hometown haunts with just the two of us, I feel like we noticed there were definitely some particular spots on that road that were very cryptidy feeling. Like
Mm-hmm.
not so much like ghost activity, but like it felt, I don't know, like we both couldn't put our finger on it, but we felt very like watched, but almost like I was like, dude, I would not be surprised if Sasquatch just jumps out of these woods right now. Like I was like, this is so spooky. We've always had, like, we got chased by the phantom truck. There was a fake police officer that was on that road, but like never actually had like a weird kind of more like something out of this world kind of experience. So it was really spooky. So I kind of want to see what your thoughts were on Clinton Road and what you experienced there.
So we did experience what we think might have been the phantom truck. Um, when we were driving, we had headlights just pop up behind us, and then as soon as they were there, like they were gone. But me and Andy both didn't see when they had disappeared. So then we stopped, turned around, and went back, and right around the area that we think that they disappeared at, there was nothing. So
Ooh,
we were trying to figure that one out.
cool. Cool. And did you guys have any other experiences on there, or was that primarily the only one?
Uh,
That was the only paranormal. It could be paranormal experience, but we did have a strange occurrence. You're familiar with the road. We're about halfway down it, parked on the side of the road, lights off, just standing there. And we hear a car coming around the bend, and this guy pulls up in a Porsche, and he says, "You guys need any help?" "No, we're just here checking out the road." And he says, "No, it's just a nice, quiet road with a cool backstory. You guys be careful though." And then the strange part about it is he turned around and went back in the direction he had just come from. So that's what we really didn't understand. And as soon as he turned around, I'm saying to John, and we have it on video, I was like, why is he turning around? You know?
Yeah, like he didn't finish the drive. He just literally stopped there, checked on y'all, and then just dipped out.
And then just to
yeah,
see
like
it,
we were in the middle of nowhere.
That's so
yeah.
wild.
Yeah, so that
That's
was
that's
our
really
spooky experience on Clinton Road.
Yeah, I feel like it's just like what's so funny about it is there's a lot of like odd experiences, but it definitely feels like it comes to life around like dusk. And maybe that's a mental thing. Like it could just be, like it's spooky. It's literally in the middle of nowhere. And I did realize a lot has changed since my youth. Like they obviously have taken a lot more precautions, safety wise. Like there's tons more like street lamps and there's more guardrails, and I'm sure that's due to the numerous teenagers driving crazy on that road. So it felt a little less spooky when we went, but I felt like at dusk it just got a weird vibe. And what was funny about it was my cousin Taylor, we all know like the Appalachia like cardinal rules. Like if you hear something, no, you
No,
don't,
you
and
didn't.
you keep it
Yeah.
trucking. Yeah. So we were filming a couple clips for like TikTok and like just filming the road, and it was kind of more towards the end. There is like a pull off, and it's like directly adjacent to like a big like hill, and then like the woods overlooking. And while we were standing there, I heard something and I just ignored it, and immediately like it sounded like very like heavy, like it sounded big, and I was like, "Oh god, I hope it's not like a wolf or something." I don't know. But like something like broke some branches, and it like sounded like it came down, and I just kind of ignored it, and I'm like, "Oh, la da da," like just kind of being aware of my surroundings. And Taylor whips around, she's like, "Did you hear that?" And I was like, I'm like, nope, I didn't hear anything. And I looked at her and she could tell I got nervous. And then I was like, you know what? She's like, are you feeling like we should get in the car? I'm like, yeah, let's just get in the car. I was like, maybe we'll just drive back now. I'm kind of over this. But yeah, like I feel like it's never enough to kind of provide evidence, but it's always either spooky or odd, like just odd things that happen.
Yeah.
So tell me, since you're Pocono regional, my husband is from the Poconos. So
Oh,
yeah, and I used to live in oh Lord, it's by Tannersville. I'm
Henryville?
blanking. No,
Mount Pocono Township?
it's where the Red Robin is, and I don't know why I'm blanking so
oh,
bad right now.
Burtonsville.
That's
Burtonsville. I was like, I can't think of it. It's where Pocono Pub is. And so yeah, so I lived there for a little bit. And he's from like Marshall's Creek. So he's up in the woods. So it's funny because I was really excited when I spoke to you guys via email, because I was like, oh, this hits home. This is really cool, because I don't know. I just never really like ghost hunted or investigated around that area. And I don't know why I never thought to. So I kind of want to pick your brains about, locations and, things or places that you may have investigated in the Poconos or favorite spots. Let's just get into it. So tell me some of your experiences.
Certainly. Andy, do you want to take first?
well, I think the first named place that you may know, you actually mentioned the first indoor investigation we did was at the Pocono Pub, and we
Really?
got we got some. In fact, we were setting up in the kitchen, just making sure the batteries were working, and we took out the spirit box, and something said "Good morning," and we weren't even set up and ready to go yet, and that hit off. But I think uh, I think we had a really good time at. We did the Sherman Theater as well. But I think our craziest investigation, as far as unexplained was, I think, St. Peter's Church in Penargil. It was really, it was something that started. We went there looking for the victims of the Delabole massacre, and we started out one row in the cemetery. I don't know if you've ever been there, but the cemetery is immense. It takes up both sides of the street, and we were one row in, and it seemed like everything we were hearing was just another maybe 50 feet away or 100 feet away. And by the time we're in there, like 2.5, 3 hours, we're so far in we can't even see the street anymore. And it just seemed like everything that happened was further in and further in. And I think it was John that said, I mean, I was starting to freak out a little bit, but he was keeping his head more. He's like, maybe we should come back when it's light, because there was something was drawing us further and further away. I don't know what that was. But that was just a very strange place. I can't wait to go back to that place.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
I had a lot of fun there too. There was a lot of activity.
Now, had you guys reached out to them to investigate there? Had they reached out to you? Like, do you guys ever get any like residential cases in the Poconos, or places that reach out because they're having kind of some unexplained happenings and just want to get some confirmation?
So we've had one residential as of right now. And we have a couple things lined up coming in the future at one at a local business. Well, actually, we'll just tell the story. It was kind of funny. When we went in to talk with the client, she began talking about the spirits and the people that used to live there beforehand. And she goes, we began to call the spirit grandma. And as soon as she said grandma, the lights overhead just start flickering. And we all just kind of look at the lights. And she goes, Grandma, is that you? Flickering again. It
That's
would
so
only flicker
cool.
when she'd say grandma.
That's really, really cool. So,
So
do you guys think like the Poconos is like, have you found any interesting history about the Poconos and anything that you think, has maybe contributed, or any like hot spots? Because I do feel like anytime you look at like a geographical area in a certain state, there always tends to be like a hot spot, and there's like tons of activity. And so I kind of wanted to see if there was any like spot that you noticed that you seem to have a lot of locations with activity and maybe history to kind of back why that would be.
So there's a lot of different areas in the Poconos, just because it is such a large area. Stroudsburg for sure. There's a lot of dense stuff right there. Like you have the tunnels underneath Stroudsburg. You have the Sherman Theater that was a refuge for people during the flood of '55.
Yeah.
They're going up into the mountains themselves. There was in Tannersville, there was actually a massacre, an Indian massacre, because that whole area was the frontier back during the Revolutionary War. And there was a family, the Learn family. We actually did a post on them on our page, where Jacob Stroud, who was the founder of Stroudsburg, refused to put militiamen out near the Learn family farm or the Learn family tavern. And because of that action, it left the family open to an Indian raid. And
Wow.
the father, the eldest son, the eldest son's wife, and infant child were all murdered. The one son, John Learn, he was able to escape, and actually he was able to kill one of the Indians, or one of the Native Americans, from a distance, and then he was able to run and go get help.
Wow.
So
That's really
there's
interesting.
there's a lot of history, including like there's one I just recently learned the other day, and I just posted today. Arlington National Cemetery, the very first person that was laid to rest in Arlington was from Pocono Lake to Tobyhanna Township.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
there's a lot of history, but like especially national history that has happened here in the Poconos.
That's
And I
crazy. And
it
go
seemed
ahead.
like a couple of weeks ago, John started posting a paranormal story, but it would be the history behind it. And like he said, the Learn family, we did a story about the old Tannersville Inn, and there was a possible tie into that family. And like you were saying a few moments ago, there's so much history. I mean, this it goes back before America was America, and it's just so interesting to literally take these deep dives into the history of the places. That is just really fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just so like I think it's so cool kind of getting to hear this because there was like a oh, I don't know why that's ringing. Hold on. Okay, sorry. That was really weird. I don't know why that was ringing. But anyways, apologies about that.
Calling
So
in from the other side.
I'm like, that was my work computer and my laptop's completely closed, so it's not supposed to be ringing, and I've been logged out, and I'm like, I don't know what that was about. That was really odd. But so what I was gonna say is, like we always had, obviously, I've always had an interest in the paranormal. So we lived, I think it was Schaefer's. It was off of Schaefer Schoolhouse Road.
Mhm.
And so this is when I was with my ex partner, and he like lived down the road, and we had there was a lot of like our friends that lived down the street and kind of in that development. And our one friend, she was like always having some sort of weird activity, and she had a, I believe it was a somebody that was a, I want to say a psychic medium. This is when we were like way back when. And she had come to the house and kind of had swept the house itself and was like, it's not the house, like the house doesn't have anything with it, but she kept saying it was the wood line. And so one night we kind of took it upon ourselves to foolishly kind of amateurly, I think is the word I'm looking for, investigate. We didn't have any equipment. We were just kind of looking ourselves, just trying to call out and see if what was going on. And that was a very interesting night. We were up until like 3 a.m. and there was just all sorts of stuff happening. It was chaotic. And I was like, oh, her house is definitely haunted. And it all started like with that wood line. There was stuff moving around the house. There was lights flickering. And it was like every time somebody would get to the wood line, they tried smudging, which like at the time, like I didn't know that that's kind of it really is kind of sacrilege, and you're really not supposed to smudge because it's a close practice. And so the person that was like smudging the wood line and was kind of trying to like barrier it, I don't think that they should have done that. And it kicked up a ton of activity. And I also noticed too, we had always kind of laughed it off at my ex partner's dad's house. He had tons of activity, and when I used to stay there, and there was a couple of times I watched the dogs, I hated being there alone at night. It was, I don't know, it takes a lot to scare me. And it always felt like you were being watched. We would see shadows move around the house. And again, it was one of those things where I don't necessarily think it was the house, but it was definitely tied to the woods around it. And it was the woods that, again, it's in the same development. So it's shared, with our other friend's house. And we had asked, and somebody else had said that they think it's a land tie as well. So I think it's really interesting that you brought that up, because I always wondered, like, if I knew then what I kind of know now, and I was a little bit more, I had the wisdom that I have now and the experience, I would have loved to investigate properly and kind of see what responses we would have gotten, because it was like very in your face active. It was very crazy. And so I wonder if that has anything to do with that. It would be interesting to see location wise if that could possibly tie into that.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
But I did not know the history of Stroudsburg or, you know, the Poconos in general. But that's really cool to hear that. And Sherman Theater, I've always wanted to go in there because it's so like it from the outside you can tell it's an old theater and it's beautiful. And I know that they always had like concerts and stuff there. But I've always wanted to get in there and just see because I love old theaters. So I think have you guys investigated there?
We
Yes.
have. We have.
Okay, what was that like?
Go
Well,
ahead,
it
Eddie.
was John reached out, and the gentleman Dan invited us to come in and look around, and it was planned. We actually did our investigation about 3 or 4 days before Christmas, and he gave us the run of the place. We went to the Sherman Showcase. We went
Mhm.
downstairs. We actually got to see the tunnels from the Sherman Showcase,
Cool.
and it was there was a lot of EMF activity, a lot of sound in the auditorium, and at one point I was sitting in the stage, and John was downstairs in the green room underneath the main stage, and I heard something. It's like somebody was either knocking or walking around up on the stage. So I went over and I just said, "Is there anybody here? If you want my attention, you've got my attention." And I gave like, "Can you give me one of those?" And I went to pan back around the audience, and I'm just looking at nothing. So I just went back and sat back down and waited for John to come back up. And we went about what else we did the rest of the night. And I went over the evidence, and we got some questionable stuff. We definitely got some crazy spirit box activity. Like we were asking questions and we were getting answers, but they were in John's voice, which was really, really crazy. But I was looking over again and looking over again, and it was about a week later. I'm looking at the video for the third time, and I just happened to notice that up on the in the balcony, you can see there's a doorway, and you can see the back hallway, and I saw a shadow go out of the balcony into that back hallway. And as soon as I saw it, I texted John and I said, "Can you get a hold of Dan? Because I got to find out where we were at this particular time." And he said, "I'll see what I can find out." And he texted me back about 20 minutes later and said, "At that time, you were in the audience, on the auditorium, and I was underneath the stage." And I said, "Dude, I got a shadow." And it was easy to miss because, like I said, it's up in the balcony, it's the very top. But if you isolate it, it's clear as day. There's a shadow walking from the balcony into the hallway. And I almost shit myself because that was the clearest shadow we ever got. And if it
Yeah.
wasn't for meticulous analyzation, we never would have seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like
Absolutely.
a split second too. It was like 2 seconds at most.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It always feels so good when you're able to capture something that you saw in real life because I feel like not like 85.5% of the time we see a lot or like we experience a lot and then you go to review the footage or the evidence and you're like I feel crazy because it's like not on there or you miss it or I don't and like I'm like I get so mad because I'm like no I'm telling you I literally watched something walk across the room there and like so it's really cool when you capture it.
Yeah, John was
So
setting up the
my other so
equipment.
like
I'm sorry.
no, you're go ahead. I think there might be a little bit of a delay, so go
All right.
ahead.
John was setting up the equipment when we first got there, and he said, "Why don't you just go around and get an EMF baseline?" And I kicked myself. I didn't bring my camera with me because I was chasing something all over the building. I mean, I would get a rainbow and then nothing, a Christmas tree and then nothing, and I say, "Well,
That
I'm opening
that's
up this door. There's
crazy.
got to be something behind this door," and there was nothing. I chased it all upstairs, downstairs. He said, "You find anything?" I said, "Yeah, quite a bit, yeah." But it's one of those things. I was just doing normal baseline. I did not think to bring my camera with me, and we lost some what could have been pretty cool evidence, but that hasn't happened again.
Wow. That's pretty neat. Um, my friend Caitlin said, "Spooky friend playing a game." That's what I was thinking. I'm like, I wonder if kids or something, because it kind of sounds like childlike movement. Um, so that would be interesting because I do feel like some of my favorite interactions at locations have always been like the children, because I feel like they're very like spirit box wise, at least what we think as children, because obviously there's no confirmation until we get there, ourselves. But what we have assumed to be, children, I always feel like those have been the most potent energies, and they tend to be, very giddy and very curious with equipment. We'll get lots of taps, and we'll get lots of, EMF spikes and REM pod hits. And so, I always love running into like children energy. So my favorite question to ask our guests on this show is, what was your personal beliefs prior to becoming an investigator, when in regard to the afterlife, the metaphysical, the paranormal, whatever you want to call it, and then your beliefs on that after becoming an investigator?
Go ahead, Jim.
Okay. Well, um, when I beforehand, I didn't know 100% what to think. I only knew what I had known from when I was a kid. We lived up in Long Pond, and there's a development that's kind of surrounded by the game lands, and we lived in there, and that used to be like an old farm back in the day, and it's also kind of close to Sullivan's Trail up there. And every now and then, we would be outside, or we could hear it coming from outside. It would sound like drum beats, like a cadence, just a bum 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 type stuff. Or we'd see shadows um, moving through the trees and things like that. So I always knew there was something there. Um, but as time went on, I'm sitting there, like, I would like to see if there's any truth to the paranormal. And now, since doing it, I can say there is something. There is something. I can put stock into there is something.
Okay, cool. And what about you, Andy?
Well, when I was growing up, I grew up Jersey boy again. I grew up in Morris Plains,
Okay.
and our principal, actually the superintendent, died one year, and then there was stories how after that people would hear things in the auditorium that they named after him. They would see things. So when I was growing up, I was I was the kind of kid, I was always home. If I didn't know I could get home before it was dark, I wouldn't leave. Um, but eventually, I started watching, the older TV shows, and I mean, if you're into the paranormal now, you're so spoiled because you can't go in any direction without seeing a podcast or a movie or a TV show. But back then, if you got it once a year, you were lucky. Um, but I started to get more and more into it, and when I found Weird New Jersey, I was like, wow, this was awesome. Wasn't really close to me, wasn't really far away, but this was all happening in the same place I live. And I would, read that magazine and, just watch what I could watch here and there. And then, like John said, when Ghost Hunters came out, I mean, I didn't know anybody did that kind of thing. I just, like I've said before, I knew that there was the Warrens and Dr. Auerbach, but after that, I thought no one else did that kind of thing. And then when I found out they did, I was always in the back of my mind, it would be really cool to do that someday. And what I've learned about it now is that it's nothing like it is on TV. Like they're there for 5, 6, 7 hours, and they compress it down to 45 minutes. So you see
Damn.
the spooky stuff. You don't see you just sitting around talking to yourself for 2 hours and just want to get up and stretch. Um, but I believed before that there was life beyond death, and I still do. I don't know. I think the biggest thing I want to know is why people stay behind. If there is something at the Sherman or the Pocono pub or when the Tannersville Inn stood, why are you still there? I mean, do you not know you died? Do you have to tell somebody a story? Why are you still here?
Yeah.
And I think I think that's one of the main things I want to do. Like, you always ask, why are you here? Do you have a message for somebody? And sometimes you get something and sometimes you don't. But I think a lot of people say that they get into the paranormal field because they want to help the living. I think it's just important to help those that aren't living anymore. They lived and they may not know that they can pass on. They may not know that they can cross over. So I'd like to think that we can help them as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I guess my next question for you would be, and kind of a hot take. I like to ask some hot take questions and get different perspectives on it. What are your thoughts on the infamous Ouija board? I love hot take questions and I love asking them because everybody has different takes. And I feel like it's fun to just get the conversation flowing and see, things like the Ouija board, and you kind of brought up the difference in ghost hunting shows, reality and fiction. So it kind of made me think it's kind of fun to ask the question, what is your personal opinion on Ouija boards?
Well, the reason I laughed when you asked that question is a few months ago we went to a Para-Unity convention in New Jersey. Excuse me. And one of the rooms had a display of different Ouija boards. And I said, John, let's go check out the room. And he's like, no, I'm not going. I'm not going in there. I said, John, they're just sitting there. They're not using them. They're just sitting there. We can just go check them out. No, I'm not going. You want to go? Go ahead. I'll wait for you here. Um, I don't like the fact that because Parker Brothers decided to make a toy out of it, that a lot of people think that it's just harmless fun. I personally would not use one. I would not allow one to be used in any place I was living because I believe that they are quite dangerous and they can open up doors that we may not be able to close. My personal opinion is I think through Hollywood and through consumerism, they've been made to seem like, again, toys.
Mhm.
And that I think that to look at it that way is very dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Do you what are your thoughts on like haunted objects? And have you ever like experienced any haunted objects?
Actually, yes. The private residence we investigated last year, there was a an area in the woman's bedroom that she had a stuffed animal. There's like a stuffed baby that she had in a little cradle, and she said she always got a weird vibe walking around whenever she would walk past it. And we took pictures, we took video, we did everything we could around that, and we really got nothing. And then about 2 or 3 months later, she sent me a picture and she said, "Can you go back and look at the video and see if he's in the same pose he was in because something different. He looks different to me." And I went back and I was able to pause our video, and sure enough, his head was turned a lot further than it was when we were there. And so I believe that spirits can attach themselves to objects. I do.
That's insane. I feel like there's I don't know. I've always had a very special interest in haunted objects, and I've always wanted to like I have an object that we believe to be haunted. I have a doll, and her name is Rosie, and she has my friend. So Caitlin, who is in our chat right now, can attest that Rosie has been pretty active in my home, and she has been. She's proven us that we think that there could be something there, but I just have always think I've always thought that it's very interesting, why would, kind of like you say, like, why would spirits stick around for certain locations? Or I guess I have a curiosity, a natural curiosity to, when it comes to haunted objects.
Hey,
Welcome
back.
back.
Sorry.
um why would they choose to attach themselves to an object? Like when you see things like, like the Smurl haunting, right? And that was centered around a mirror, or, and here's my thing. Maybe that's a bad example because I've had my own experiences with mirrors, and 100% there is some truth to that. I personally am afraid of mirrors. I'm not a big fan. I don't have a lot in my house. I'm just not a mirror person. But why would a ghost choose to attach themselves to a doll or attach themselves to a stuffy? Or people even have had. I'm trying to think of who it was. We had a guest on, and I think it was a painting. I think it might have been Jill that we had on. And she had a pretty spooky painting that had a pretty sordid history and some really creepy effects on people. And so it's always perplexed me, just as much as why would people who have traveled to the afterlife or maybe get stuck, linger in certain places, and do they truly linger? Are they truly locked where they are? Why would they also cling to an object? So I just figured, I'd ask you guys your thoughts on it if you've ever come across one, because it's definitely a very interesting thought.
Yeah. For me, like I heard about the doll, Andy talking about the doll at the one home we went to. I used to work at a restaurant in Jim Thorpe, and
Love Jim
um,
Thorpe.
an awesome town. Um, and there was this giant painting in the dining room, and we always got the creeps around this painting. The owner would buy different paintings or knickknacks to put in the restaurant from yard sales and estate sales and whatnot. And this one painting, it was of a man with a sheet over his head, like just like kind of draped. And we used to joke around because he had a little beard, and we used to call him Sexy Jesus. Um,
That's
but
fantastic.
when you would look at this painting through a mirror that was kind of next to it, the painting would change, and the man would look almost skeletal. Um, I can ask my friend who still works there, see if she could get it on video to show and send it to me, and I can post it up. But it was the weirdest thing. Like you would literally just take your camera and put on the picture, and then zoom it to the mirror, and it was a completely different painting.
That's so crazy. And I feel like paintings, I'm starting to not like paintings as much. And it was something I never like. It's funny how when you're in the paranormal, there's things that like they just have never really crossed your mind, or you've just like never looked into them. And then it's like you hear a couple stories and then a couple more, and you're like, oh, okay, this is a little bit more common than I realized. And you're like, okay, I may have a new fear now. I may have just unlocked something I didn't need to unlock, because I have heard some stories lately about paintings, and I'm like, that freaks me out because, like, I don't know, I love art. I'm a big art person. And it's been on my radar lately. When I go to Goodwill, I always like to peek through things. And now I'm second guessing. I'm like, I guess nothing's really safe at the Goodwill. You could bring home a blender, it could be haunted, and you could bring home a painting, and you're just as unsafe.
Take your K2 with you as you're going through.
Yeah. See if anything lights up. Um, but yeah, so tell me more about some of your other run-ins. Like, I just want to hear some of your spooky experiences and what you've experienced investigating.
Well, I'll hand this off to John, but when somebody commented before about playing a game, John and I had a very fun experience at the Pocono pub. We were doing the Estes method. John was in the bathroom with the door open, and me and our guest at the time were asking questions. And then at one point, we got the word play, and she said, "Do you want to play with us?" And then John heard ha ha ha, and as soon as he said the last ha, the door in front of him slammed. And we tried everything we could to recreate how hard that door slammed, but that was just crazy, crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I admitted it was probably as close as I've come to a dude run moment because I lost my composure a little bit. But it was insane that we heard, "Do you want to play a game?" Ah, slam. Ah!
Oh my
So
gosh.
Yeah,
That would scare me.
that was scary. It was a scary.
I feel like there's like jump scare moments in investigating, whether it's paranormal or not paranormal, when you're like already like, because everything usually gets really quiet because you're trying not to contaminate evidence and you're like doing EVP. So everything's like really quiet. And then it's like something slams or something knocks and you're like, because you're just like waiting for something, but you don't know what it's going to be. And so like, I hate investigation jump scares. They kill me every time.
Yeah, and they come at odd times. Odd times.
Have you guys ever been to Linville Manor?
We have not.
Oh man, if you have the chance, I'm telling you, it is so worth it to rent it. My husband, that was my Christmas gift. He rented it out for me and my best friends to do an investigation there. And when I tell you, from the minute we walk through the door, the amount of activity that you get, like just stepping in the door, is insane. So if you haven't investigated there yet, I highly, highly recommend. It's really, really cool. And you'll get a lot of jump scares. You'll get a lot of like, oh shit moments. It's pretty cool. Do you guys have like any bucket list locations that you haven't been to that you really want to get to in the next, couple of years?
Definitely. For me, bucket list would have to be Trans Allegheny, or Moundsville Prison.
Oh, that's a new one. What about you, Andy?
I have somewhat loftier goals. I'd love to go to the Queen Mary out in Long Beach, California. But again, it's not really a bucket list. But if I ever trip over a bag of money list, I'd love to go to Lep Castle in Ireland.
Yes. I feel like the UK is just magical. It is rich in folklore and it's not just ghosts, it's everything from fae to cryptids to, just tons of different things, and the castles are just exquisite. My grandma was from Wales, like straight off the boat, and she raised me, and I just fell in love with our Welsh culture, just hearing like the stories. And like, I that is an amazing bucket list item because I've heard that the castles are just out of this world with activity, and I feel like that would be a really cool place.
Nah.
Uh,
So do you guys, equipment wise or technique wise, have any equipments or thing like, Estes method? Do you guys have like a favorite thing that you think tends to give you pretty good evidence every time you use it?
K2.
Yeah.
K2. Um,
Awesome.
the spirit box, like sometimes we'll sit there and it's kind of up for debate on what we hear or whatnot. But K2, there's no denying. Like if you're in a place with no electricity and you start getting lit up, uh, I'd say that one's that and our voice recorders.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Have you guys gotten any
One thing I
EVPs
like,
that are
one thing I like using, but it's very, very temperamental. We've been a couple places with it, and just it'll pick up a vibration, and it'll just go off, and you can't stop it. So you have to. That's something that you have to take very. You got to be very gentle with that, and it's not, in my opinion, it's not the best indicator. But again, I love K2s. I love voice recorders. Um, and we use cell phones, and that's everything that pretty much is on our YouTube pages from our cell phones. So um, just because you don't really need a lot of money to get into this field, although John has bought a lot of stuff for our group. You can get started with a cell phone, a flashlight, and you're off to the races, really.
There you go. There you go. That's awesome, and I love hearing that advice because I feel like what kept me from personally investigating for the longest time was the thought process of like I needed the equipment that I saw in the shows, and I feel like your body, your little recorder, your EMF, like some of those simple things are really your best tools. I mean, as simple as you can get. And I thought it was cool because a previous guest that we had on really was talking about some creative ways that they were able to kind of make their own equipment using stuff that they got on like Goodwill or that they were able to get through eBay, like just like little like one was like an Xbox Connect camera. And they were able to kind of just hook that up to I forget what it was. It was something really simple. Like, and they used that as an SLS and it actually proved pretty profound. Like they were able to use it
Oh, wow.
successfully without too many false positives. And there was my cousin had bought one of those like little cactus kids toys because it's a little bit harder to set off. It's not triggered very easily. Like you really have to talk into it to get it to copy you. And then the motion, you really have to touch it to set it off. And we had used that. And I feel like just those little creative ways. I mean, look at cat balls. Cat balls are a perfect
Mhm.
example. Maybe not everybody, because they're controversial. Some people are like, oh, they're too sensitive. And some people are like, oh, I hate cat balls. But I feel like it's one of those things. It's a pet toy. And it turned into, just a creative way to test if, something is touching it. Or so I feel like you don't need a ton of expensive equipment. You just need the creative mind and an open mind to really try anything and everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, another question that I have for you is do you think that some people have the notion that entities are capable of attachment through attention alone? What do you guys think about that?
Um, I don't know how I feel about that. I do know we were at one location once, Hungry Hill, up in the Poconos, and
Pocono Summit.
Pocono Summit. Yep, and we got there, and me and Andy were in great moods. We were very happy, and then I, as time went on, I just started feeling like completely weighed down, completely sad. Like the best way to describe it is that I was just like sad. And
Okay.
Andy even noticed a complete like 180 change in my personality. And then that night when I got home, I noticed there were scratches on me that I had not been there previously.
Uh,
Yeah, I
that's
remember that night
you didn't
when
feel it
I
when it
got
was
home.
happening?
No, didn't feel scratches at all.
That's wild. I'm sorry, what were you gonna say, Andy?
No, just that night when I got home and I was getting changed and ready for bed, I looked at my leg and I had a scratch on my leg as well. And I just took a picture. I said, I got to show John. And I think he's just going to think I rubbed up against something while I was up there. And then I was never expecting him to send me a picture of his shoulder with scratch marks on it as well.
That's crazy. Do you guys think when it comes to, I'm going to kind of delve into the cryptid kind of extraterrestrial realm here, but what are your thoughts on that? Because I do feel like often when you kind of get into the paranormal field, it does kind of segue into that and those lines bleed a little bit. So, have you encountered anything that you don't think is a spirit? And what did you think it was? And what are just, I guess, your general thoughts on cryptids and extraterrestrial life?
So as we've been doing our research, I've been delving a lot into the Lenni Lenape legends of the Poconos, and one of them that I actually really like, because I actually had an experience, didn't know what it was, and then recently when I found the story, I was able to kind of connect it. There's a story called the Smoke People, and the Smoke People, they're not spirits. They're like connected to the land. They're ancient. Um, and hunters from back then were said to sorry, they would encounter these figures in the fog, that would have these white eyes, and they would lead them deeper into the woods, and the hunters would never be seen again. Now, I was around like 16 years old, 17 years old. I was out hunting in the state game lands by my house, and I got in around 4:30 in the morning, and there was a little bit of fog on the ground, whatnot. And I kept thinking I was seeing people walking through the woods, and I wanted to go and check it out, but I didn't. I decided to sit and just sit where I was. It was probably just hunters coming in around me and getting a little too close to me. Um, and I never thought anything more of it until I was going through that story, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, that story took place right, or came from the area where I was. So I'm like, okay, there might be something to that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's really spooky. I have heard a lot of paranormal stories from hunters. I think it's really cool to hear some of the things that they experience. I'm very intrigued with Appalachia and like the woods. I just think there's something about the woods that I don't think we delve enough into. I think we're so focused on like locations that we miss the whole category of like land and looking into land hauntings and different creatures or beings or whatever you want to call them in the woods. So that I think that's really, really intriguing that you mentioned that you had that experience. So I guess since we're kind of getting close to our hour mark, I want to kind of chat with you guys a little bit about locations that you would suggest, particularly in the Poconos, for new, rookie kind of investigators or people looking to get into it. What would your kind of recommendations for locations, and then just any general advice that you would have for some newbies?
Y'all go Andy first, or
Yeah. Again, like you said, this area is so rich with history and paranormal activity. Unfortunately, a lot of the places don't exist anymore. But places that are still up are places like Henryville House. We've gone there, and while we were only able to stay outside, we did get some activity there. Again, if people can go and be respectful, I would recommend St. Peter Cemetery, because it is, again, we were there for 3 hours and we'd scratched the surface of that. if they just, I say this a lot to people that ask me, are you a hardcore believer? Are you a skeptic? I'm a skeptic believer. I think the best way to prove something is real is to try to prove that it isn't. If you do everything you can to disprove that that door could open by itself in any other way, with the wind, with this or that, and you've done everything you can think of and you cannot recreate that door opening, you have evidence. But if you go into a place and you think, I know it, and I know we're going to get activity, and if we're going to get it, and you hear a knock, you're not going to think, well, maybe it's the heat, or maybe it's something banging on the window outside. So I think you have to don't go in trying to prove activity. I'd say go in with the mind of trying to disprove it.
Yeah, that's a really, really good advice. I really like that because I think that that's important, to remain with a little bit of skepticism, because if you go into it too overzealous and too much of a believer, it kind of sways your evidence. So, or I shouldn't say, I mean, if you have evidence, you have evidence, but I do think that there are some pieces of evidence that, depending on the looking glass that you're kind of looking through, you can kind of almost convince yourself something is something if it's even if it's not. Um, but yeah, so John, what are your picks and some of your advice?
So places here in the Poconos, um, there haven't been a lot of people exploring the Poconos, so it's kind of like a look around. Try different places out. Like for us, Hungry Hill was not a hot spot. No one ever talked about it. And we went there mainly because we wanted to see A, if there was anything there, and B, could we get a name to put to the grave that's there, because it's um Hungry Hill is a grave of an unknown soldier.
Mhm.
So we were hoping to get a name. That was what we were looking for. Um, and my advice would definitely be get permission. Like places, don't be afraid to ask permission to go somewhere. You never know what doors are going to open up to you when you simply just ask. Like for us, we have some great opportunities coming up in the future, mainly because I just sent an email saying, "Hey, this is who we are. This is what we do,"
Yeah.
and just be respectful of the locations.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's absolutely wonderful. So is there anything else that you kind of want to just share with us in our last 5 minutes here, that you think people should know? Any events coming up? Where to kind of locate you guys? Any, if you're going live, when you're going live, that kind of thing.
Well,
So
we do
as of
have
right now,
something coming. Sorry, guys.
go ahead, Andy.
No, no, I was just, I think we're going to say the same thing.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that in probably, we're looking at maybe January of next year. We're planning a little road trip out to the Midwest. We're going to go to um, Villisca, to the Axe Murder
Oh,
House and Malvern Manor. And we also want to go to Atchison, Kansas and go to Sally's house.
okay.
Um, but that's coming up in the not distant future, but not right around the corner.
Yeah, those are great locations. I can't wait to pick your brain and hear more about Sally House, because I've heard so many crazy things. So I'm excited to see what you guys experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, what about you, John? Do you have anything that you want to kind of throw in there?
No, yeah, we're looking forward to this year. We've been trying to set up different things with different organizations, including Monroe County as well.
Cool.
And we're looking to expand. That's the best thing I can say. We're always looking to get bigger, and do better at what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a wonderful thing. You know, you can never stop learning and growing in the paranormal. So that's absolutely amazing. Pocono Regional Paranormal on Facebook, correct?
Yes.
Do you guys have a website, or do you have anywhere else that you're posting your investigation evidence or anything like that?
So we are also on YouTube. We have two YouTube accounts. One is Pocono Regional Paranormal. What is it? 5944, and then we have Pocono Regional Paranormal. We are also on Instagram, which is Pocono Regional Paranormal 2026. And we are also on a line at
Awesome.
Pocono Regional Paranormal.
Awesome. Well, I can't thank you guys enough for joining me tonight and hanging out for a little bit and
Thank
sharing some
you.
of your experiences. And then
Thank
hopefully
you.
maybe sometime in the future we can collab, because I'd love to, get back to the old stomping grounds, and, maybe you guys could show me around a
Absolutely.
little bit, do an investigation. I would love that.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah. Cool. All right, cool. So
All
don't
right.
be strangers. We'll have to stay in touch. We'll get something, down. So, hopefully a weekend or something where you guys can show me around, and we can get some ghosty evidence.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, for all of our listeners, make sure you check out, again, it's Pocono Regional Paranormal, and give them, a like, a subscribe, check them out, support all of your local investigators and your not so local investigators. And more importantly, also make sure that you're supporting and fundraising for your local locations, and anywhere that you're investigating. But as always, our spooky friends, stay weird, and we will catch you on the next episode of the Ghoulfriend Hour. Bye, guys.